agentomasz.
We are here with Matthew Tyrmand. Today we are in Kameralna cafe, the place I visited for the first time in my life.
And you... sad.
No, I'm happy.
I know, you're not really Varshovian.
No, I'm not.
You're
But you are.
Spaniard and Ljubljanian.
But you are, and you've been here a number of times.
I live a couple blocks away from here, so
Really?
I'm in Warsaw, yeah.
Can you tell me something more? Can you tell us something more about this place?
Sure. So this was a legendary spot in the 50s and 60s and into the 70s, I believe, where all of the sort of literati and who's who of Polish intellectual and dynamic society would spend their evenings dancing and drinking. It factors heavily into my father's novel, Zły, which we'll be making a movie about, and I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But if you walk around this place, you see the pictures of my father, of Marek-Wasko, of many of the great characters of Warsaw in this sort of time, 50s, 60s, interesting time in Warsaw history.
Because before we decided to move here, our first meeting point was supposed to be the Labor Cafe.
Yeah, well, they have a good quesadilla that was an emotional, but, you know, the best laid plans of mice and men.
My first idea of the topic was the title of this show. I don't know if it's going to stand, but is Mateusz Morawiecki the new John Galt? Because he
certainly not.
Because I'm afraid
I love Mateusz Morawiecki as a person, but he is not John Galt.
Well, because I had this opinion that he's going to stop all the engines at some point in Poland.
I know he's keeping them greased, which is his great success. Unfortunately, Mateusz Morawiecki, I wonder if I'll ask him next time I see him if he's ever read Atlas Shrugged or The Fountainhead and how he feels about.
I mean, I know
he's
more into Piketty. Last time I heard him,
Jarosław is into Piketty.
Yeah, he was quoting Piketty on the news.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That's the
Like
political system that we're in. I have a lot of respect for Mateusz Morawiecki, and I think that he is a well-educated economist, very rational, and trying to merge the economic views that helped make him an excellent bank leader with the politics of Poland in 2017 and law and justice is not easy. So my hat's off to him on being able to not only do a great job, which he's doing, but thread the needle of this sort of politics plus rational economics. You know, my conversations with him, I do think he gets it. We don't agree on everything, and I do think that why you say, when you said that could he be the Polish John Galt? No, because his views are certainly further to the sort of economic left than mine. You know, I'm an Austrian by and large, and he is very much not that. He's an economic nationalist, which is also the economic paradigm that drove America to the right, that bridged the right-left political divide, Republican-Democrat, and brought the Democrat Rust Belt Union voters to vote for Trump and the Republican base as well to really rally behind Steve Bannon and Steve Bannon's view of economic nationalism. So actually I sent Bannon, when Morawiecki gave a speech at the Law and Justice Convention maybe 2 months ago, a couple hours outside Warsaw, Mateusz gave a speech, and there was a transcript of it and translated into English, and I sent it to Bannon because it really was you could see a lot of these themes coming out of either of their mouths, and these themes were what led to the success of these political shifts that were not just straight conservative right, but populist as well, which brought in a lot of center leftists, especially less so in Poland, but also in Poland to some degree after PO. So, you know, John Galt, no, but doing a great job, effective job, making sure that some of the real Piketty economic policy making, the expansionist policy-making, accommodation to spending more money and spreading it around among the populace, it has to be paid for, and it's not always easy to create a budget when you've got whole new programs being introduced without there being some sort of fiscal gap and deficit. And he's done a masterful job in closing any potential for that through things like that, tax loophole closure, and making the tax system more equitable, especially with foreign multinationals. and in general, making a lot of the ministries that he's now been able to oversee in state-owned enterprises run more smoothly.
Okay, so which are the points where you disagree with Mr. Morawiecki? Because if you consider yourself an Austrian economic person, I mean, it's going to be hard to mix Rothbard and Morawiecki.
Certainly. I am not a purely dilettante philosopher when it comes to economics. I believe in the pragmatism of having to thread that needle politically. And the economic nationalism that's been promoted by both Bannon and Morawiecki, and I've had even arguments with both of them in person about it, but I've also seen where the view comes from, and I don't think it's an unjustified one. Though I, in my ideal world, would implement some sort of ultra-free market Austrian system, I recognize that is a utopian ideal as well, that you have to get all the stakeholders politically and societally involved to make that work. That's very difficult. As a result, what you get when you really strive toward a absolutely unfettered free market is you get this pitfall of cronyism, of rent-seeking, the most competitive, play a competitive game in a different way. They undermine the free market competition. I have a little saying I like to say that those who can't compete in the free market compete to make the market less free. And as a result, you see a lot of cronyism. And what you've seen with economic nationalism is they've thrown out this idea, which I think is accurate, that in this free market system you get a race to the bottom in labor costs. This is what the think tank American Enterprise Institute and many of the somewhat conservative, economically free market oriented think tanks have postulated, is this multinational, breaking down the multinationality, opening borders and allowing labor to come across.
So this is a bad thing in your opinion?
I think that if it were a
so
pure...
labor costs should be higher than
No,
they
labor
are right
costs
now.
should be rational. And
Exactly.
when you have a race to the bottom in labor costs through open borders, this is what we've seen in practicality. I understand theoretically it should be a good thing, but in practicality you undermine the stability of the economics within your own society. This is what happened in the U.S. with open borders with Mexico and NAFTA, as well as illegal labor, which also undermines a efficient pricing mechanism. So what you've seen is that the manufacturing sector in the U.S. has gotten hollowed out, offshore jobs to Asia and to Latin America, and the American worker has not seen any wage growth at all in 25, 30 years. And if you tack in inflation, you could even say that there's been a negative real economic effect to the majority of Americans, while the ultra elite, this is where the populism comes in, has done really, really, really well, has exploited this.
Do we have the same problem in Poland? We're not exporting jobs.
No, what Morawiecki describes is the middle income trap, where you go from a hyper-growth, developing, emerging market, which Poland was after communism, and did some really good things. I'm not very popular in the right when I say Balcerowicz did an amazing job in a horrible system, a horrible hand of cards he was dealt. Very, very bad. And he was able to do the best possible thing. Was it perfectly clean? Was it ugly? Was there oligarchical cronyism? Absolutely. Were there some things that are still persisting with us that he was not able to solve in terms of anti-competition and legacy vestigial organs in the economy? Absolutely. But he did make the economy, he cleared the decks to allow the economy to grow. He took the tough medicine that came out of that you had to coming out of the system, and this was like nowhere else in Central and Eastern Europe, Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, Czech Republic. You see that, I mean, with the exception of Czech Republic, which has started to catch up a lot in recent years, most of the Central and Eastern European post-Soviet Iron Curtain nations did not do what Balcerowicz did, and they were mired and still are mired in low growth and are holding on to assets with no value.
So,
and have not written them
Morawiecki
down.
is like the next step, right?
But,
it's in your
but what
opinion,
Morawiecki talks about, this middle income trap, is you had this opportunity from high growth, which did occur in the 90s, to not quite at the spot where Western Europe is, especially a stable, mature economy like the UK, but even like Spain, Italy, France, who have these industrial bases and have moved up the consumption chain really quickly in the last 30 or 40 years. For them, a lot of the European Union breaking down of economic borders helped them a lot. Granted, German investment as the 800-pound gorilla in the European economy, helped them a lot. But Poland's just not there yet. It doesn't have this sort of inertia. It has still high growth, but it doesn't have this really strong inertia for investment and development. And part of that, I think, is a rule of law.
But basically,
law issue.
What we have right now, we don't have problems with NAFTA and Mexico in Poland. And when you talk about dobra zmiana in economics, I'm not even talking about the Austrian crowd, but everyone will tell you about apteka dla aptekarza or fighting Uber.
I wrote a column about it. I think it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. This is dobra zmiana in Poland. The VAT loophole is just like, it sounds like basically 1 week news, basically, in my opinion.
I was very, very against apteka dla aptekarza. I made a lot of noise about it. I believe I may have even helped stimulate a resignation from one of the proponents of it in the health ministry, because I really talked about how bad this bill was.
I've heard that Morawiecki was also against it.
He was against it. Yeah, he was absolutely against it. So was Gowin. So it's good to see that these guys can hold on to some sort of non-protectionist ideal when it comes to industry, and especially sectors, picking winners and losers. I think they know that picking winners and losers among sectors is a fool's game. Apteka dla aptekarza, Uber is just crazy. I just got an email from Uber a few months ago, 1 millionth Polish customer. It's great. Think about all the Ukrainians coming here who are doing an awesome job, adding to the economy, adding value to consumers, being self-sustaining, so they do not have to live off a German-style dole for those people, those foreigners that come
last
into the country.
Last week we met last Saturday. I was coming back home with a guy from Pakistan. His name was Nurzat, and this guy he couldn't speak a word in Polish, but he could fit.
I know his pain.
Something.
I know his pain. I agree that some of these bills. Look, this fur bill is another one I think is ridiculous, and I actually argued with.
That's the one, yeah, of course.
Let the market decide if consumers don't want to support fur, just because a few of the quote-unquote leaders of the government love animals and cats. Don't get me wrong, I love Yachting.
I don't think it's about loving animals and cats
no,
in
I
particular.
think it is. No, I think
you
it
really
is.
think it is?
Yeah, I
think
it's
there's some big money behind it.
No, I don't think there is. I don't think that I was thinking about that. Like, where is I always look for, with my forensic audit work in the U.S., I always look for the cronyist aspect. And because this market's not so big, I don't think that there was like somebody coming in saying we'd replace fur as a viable outer lining. Like, it's not like DuPont Gore-Tex can come in and replace it and it would be material to them, that it requires them to rent seek and engage in some sort of cronyist practice. I think that it really does come down to a few people really like animals, and I do not support fur. I'm with PETA on this by and large, but I do not believe that it should be by government fiat. I believe that through education and through debate, people can choose. I don't want to impose my value system about being anti-fur, because it would be hypocritical. I'm an absolute carnivore. I live on meat, and when people tell me that this fur is so inhumane, this fur practice, this fur trade, I say, well, what about chicken farms, cow farms, sheep farms, everything you eat? So it's hypocritical. I don't really love what they do with minks and other animals to breed them for fur, but it is a valid enterprise. I'm not going to impose my value system on saying that, because you'd have to be a full vegan who really lives that talk to say that would be a holistic, consistent view of things. But I don't think the bill's going to pass, which is good. I mean, this is, by my count, what I've heard is 50 to 60,000 employees, keeping whole towns alive. Let the market decide. And if the market rejects it as a practice, it will be a gradually, orderly wind down of the industry, not just an overnight fiat bankrupting companies, throwing people out on the street in terms of jobs.
I think that this bill is not going to pass.
I think it's not going to pass.
I've just read that Jarosław Kaczyński already said that he's going to be more European about this. So he's going to adopt some European approach. And I guess we can all guess what that means.
Well, I mean, this is all rhetoric.
You want to take a bite before we continue, or no? Really? Because we are in the middle of a lunch.
Yeah,
at least Matthew is.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's actually breakfast.
Breakfast.
What time is it? 2:30.
That's a healthy.
2:45.
That's a healthy breakfast.
Meat. I told you. Yeah.
Tartar.
I may not like fur, but I do love meat.
at least it doesn't have for, they took it out at some point.
Which I appreciate.
Blue laws about,
Sundays.
trade on Sundays.
Sundays
exactly.
is really, this is the thing that really pisses me off. I'm actually...
But you see, it's another thing that pisses you off. You talked about your Austrian approach. It doesn't have to be a hardcore Austrian approach.
Here's the thing.
I understand it.
What's the alternative? Again, I'm a political pragmatist. I'm a conservative. I'm a free marketer.
Yeah.
The best I'm going to get in Poland today to support is law and justice as conservatives who they claim to be Euro-realists, but they're pretty Eurosceptic, which I think is a good thing ultimately for Poland. Mm-hmm. Militarily hawkish, I think is good. Most of the platform I agree, philosophically I agree, except on economics. There are no free market, viable free market focused parties in Poland. And I love Corbyn, but he's a monarchist. And
have you seen the movie yet? I gave you the
No.
movie 1 year ago. I mean, because it doesn't have the subtitles.
Yeah.
Subtitles are on YouTube. You can watch it with
Okay.
English subtitles. Yeah?
Well, I told Corbyn a few months ago that I asked him if he was still a monarchist. He said yes. I said, congratulations, you got your monarchy. Are you happy? He didn't think that was that funny. That was a little funny, but he's like, yeah, you're right.
So we should still support law and justice, even if they are producing
I will, yeah.
those acts.
Look, if there's
Constantly.
competition among the right and fragmentation happens again, which it probably will, if Gowin and Morawiecki started their own party that was more free market, I'd love it. Govin's still the only one who consistently preached on economics what I believe in. He just hasn't done it as much since he became deputy prime minister and higher education minister. But when he was forming Polska Razem, his rhetoric was rather appropriate, in my view.
Okay, so it's still rhetoric, but we know that this project of this new act about universities and higher education is gonna be probably, cut and deleted. And that was the only thing that Gowin was supposed to be led to do. It was green lighted for it, and right now it's off limits. So
Politics is a messy thing. It is what it is. Every day we wake up, we keep fighting the fight the best way we can. For me, putting out the ideas I can, writing in my column things like what I did condemning Uptakarze. My next column will be about this Sunday restrictions on commerce, which I do think are utterly ridiculous because it's going to chop off GDP. Some of that will be offset to other times, but you're restricting a very basic freedom. In the manner or desire to nudge someone and the society to a behavior, whether it's church attendance or spending time with family or engaging in sort of a more proactive leisure. Some people want to shop. I just kind of think about all the different stakeholders in society. There's so many different people with different interests that what about the mother of 5 kids who works Monday to Saturday to support a family, or Monday to Friday and just can't possibly do everything she needs to do on a Saturday? I don't think that's fair. What about the workers who want to pick up the extra hours? I don't think it's fair. I can already imagine the exemptions that will be allotted based on industry and business type, movie theaters, gas stations, Żabka maybe, I don't know. Restaurants. So who gets to choose which get exempted because they have the societal necessity for Sunday activity, which don't?
and even on train stations, you can trade on the first floor, and you cannot do it on the second floor.
Well, this is why I like consistent,
You have to open
deregulated laws.
Yeah, exactly. A ticket desk. If you have an open ticket desk on a level, that is the level that you can continue your trade, which is so stupid.
Well, my guess is that those who will lose out, and this will be felt after a year or two, or Polish, Gowin says Poland's a nation of shopkeepers and 70 to 80% of GDP is from small business, mom and pop, Poles owning their own small business. Those are the ones who are going to lose out because their freedoms are going to be restricted. It's not going to move the needle as much for the Biedronka types, foreign multinationals. They lose 1/7 of their addressable time to sell merchandise. Yeah, they'll feel it, but it won't crush them. Small Polish business, it can really hurt. So I think this whole thing is really a bad idea. But nobody listens to me except you, Tomek.
And all my listeners as well.
Okay, so all 10.
It's a group of 5.
All 10 of you guys.
All 10 of
Awesome.
us.
Let's change the world, guys.
And one lady, because we care about diversity.
Awesome. Multiculti.
Speaking about diversity, there's no diversity in sex assaulters, right?
Yeah, they're all Democrats.
They're all Democrats.
leftists,
it's
feminists.
So unfair. I mean, conservatives should consider like letting some
Who would have thought
into the
that
crowd.
conservatives who actually preach conservative values of rule of law and good behavior, and gender's not a social construct, and men and women are different, and men should be gentlemen to women. Those people do less of this nonsense. That's also functionally why they're not part of this Hollywood elite crowd who's rather hedonistic and behaves
they make jokes
like
about
animals.
grabbing a pussy or something like that, but it's only
Well,
jokes.
that's not a conservative.
I know.
He's not a conservative.
That's not a conservative. But he's only joking. And I remember that was like the news of the century, that he was joking about it.
Well timed. A couple weeks before the election. Very well timed. An operation. Absolutely. Meanwhile, every one of those 15 women that Gloria Allred trotted out was being assaulted by Trump. None of them...
I think there was mobile somewhere else because I'm afraid it's going to make funny noises.
None of them have followed through on lawsuits. None of them have been able to prove any allegations. Roy Moore, Senator of Alabama, is being attacked. It's another Gloria Allred operation. These people are partisan political activists, not media, not lawyers. They are there for one thing, which is to help the left win ugly, dirty, cheat, lie, steal. But you look at the Democrat congressmen who are now getting exposed. The reason is simple, is why it's going to be all Democrats. Because the media investigates Republicans. And even if an allegation is clearly not grounded in reality and fallacious, they will still run it out as if it was fact. Roy Moore and Trump being good examples. Democrats, they cover for it. Look at Bill Clinton. They try to, the people who scream, you're not allowed to blame the victim or shame the victim or doubt the victim, literally destroyed everybody who was actually raped by Bill Clinton. There's three big names who were very famous, Paula Jones, Juanita Broadwick, and Kathleen, I forget her last name. But there are three major figures from this 90s that were totally destroyed by the media for being the victim of Bill Clinton. Now that the Clinton machine has weakened dramatically, all of a sudden it's fair game. Now all of a sudden the talking heads are saying, well, maybe Bill Clinton was a bad guy, now that he's of no use to them. So this tells you the perniciousness of the left rather accurately, I think.
Those ladies were actually destroyed by Hillary. She was the engine of it. She was the shield.
More than a shield, she was aggressively victim blaming. And the same woman who, as a feminist now in the last 5-10 years, says, no, every victim must be taken at their word. What about the victims of her husband's rapes, which were very well founded? And everybody knows 100% happened.
Right now the discussion also changes its tone to diversity, and there is not enough diversity in skin tones. I've heard that there's not enough diversity, and the whole scandal only uncovers that white, rich, privileged males, they had this green light for years, and that's the rape culture continues. That's like a continuation of that narrative. Well, except Kevin Spacey, who's is not straight.
There's a great video of Kevin Spacey on Charlie Rose talking about Bill Clinton. So you've got three guys, Bill Clinton well-founded, but now maybe being held accountable. And you've got Kevin Spacey, who's now been run out of Hollywood on a rail. And then you've got Charlie Rose, who was just fired from CBS 2 days ago for walking around women with his bathrobe open. Like anybody would be interested in that, wrinkled.
I think that media gave this kind of shield to all Democrats after Bill Clinton. In my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not sure, but basically I would risk that option, that it's all started, in my opinion, with Bill Clinton. It's like all Democrats
look,
discovered that they are shielded.
Why don't we go back further? Ted Kennedy murdered a chick, drunk drove a woman over a bridge in Chappaquiddick, Martha's Vineyard, during the summer in the late 60s, and they were still thinking about running him for president. They covered up the entire murder. He got away scot-free. I mean, it was news, and then it was ruled an accident. The guy was drunk driving, taking this young girl home, Mary Jo Kopechne, to do what you can imagine, and he drove off a bridge and left her there, and then didn't report it until the next day. I mean, this is murder. So that's Ted Kennedy. Chris Dodd, his best friend in Congress, was Senator of Connecticut, also a New England leftist patrician in a sense. him and Ted Kennedy were famous in D.C. for hooking up with every secretary, everybody, cheating on their wives, in bathrooms at restaurants. I mean, they were caught in the action. I mean, and then the media never reported, even though it was an open secret. Any Republican does even an allegation of anything, and it's top news, as if it's fact. So it tells you the double standard. It's not just Bill Clinton. It's been around for a long time.
I think it's going to be like another shift, because with Bill Clinton, we've learned that oral sex is not actually sex, right? It's not actually sex. With Monica Lewinsky, that was the story. You know,
kind of agree with that.
Actually, he was not lying. He said he never had any sexual
As
women with a woman.
As one of my friends says, he used her as a humidor.
And so right now I'm afraid we're gonna hear that, you know, all those Republicans, they are just grumpy old men. They are boring. They don't party. You know, that's why it happens. They just don't party because they're boring. They don't know life.
Representative Joe Barton from Texas sent, I don't know how it leaked out, but sent a special sort of selfie to a woman he was seeing, consensual relationship, apparently separated from his wife. So nothing really untoward, but this leaks out, and this is the big news that the left media wants to cover, is this congressman's, naked selfie, not all of the actual rapes, like Al Franken and John Conyers, the longest-serving House member.
John Conyers is the founder of Black Caucus, Congressional Black Caucus.
Correct.
He was the founder, right?
Yep, founder, longest-serving man in the House of Representatives, as well as obviously black House rep from Michigan, and he's. I think everyone knew that he was kind of a horn dog, and it was just covered up, and now it's in a period where I think this is part of the Trump effect, that the left is now not as protected. They're going to be exposed, which is a very good thing. So now he's threatening that if people don't back off him for his transgressions, he's going to give up, let people know that it's not just him, there's others. Which I say, great.
Wow, yeah.
More Democrats.
Exactly.
Let's
less Democrats in that.
Which eventually let's
Democrats.
expose these absolute fraud, liars, cheaters, thieves. What was Lerner?
I was just thinking about how to switch to the next subject, because I'm not really on the loop with Tea Party, but I know that two things are happening with Tea Party right now. First of all, it disappeared. Nobody gives a shit about.
No, it's an evolution. Not true. Tea Party, which Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, many House members, the House Freedom Caucus all grew out of in 2010. Many came in 2010. Ted Cruz came in 2012. It was the inflection after this 2008-9 crisis when people realized something was really rotten and broken and not getting fixed. The Tea Party allowed for this populism to develop on the right, and it was actually good because the Tea Party was a very right-of-center dynamic, but this populism merged the right and the left. So the Tea Party was why Trump won. It was, politics is a evolutionary system. So it reacts, the political happenings react to what happened before. So it's because of the Tea Party that this allowed this populist wave to develop that swept Trump into office.
But right now we learned that all those accusations that Tea Party had against the government in 2010 and 2011, they are 100% true. And it all sounded, for a moment, like a conspiracy theory, that this bad government is against us. It's against us. It doesn't let us get our tax reliefs back. Suddenly we hear that it was not a conspiracy theory, that it was and organized.
It was everybody on the right knew it. The only one who's, when you say you hear, you mean when the New York Times says, there's nothing to see here, move along.
Exactly.
I'm a conservative activist who runs and co-runs multiple 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofits. These were the ones that were regulated by Lois Lerner. I know many people who were harassed by the IRS. Their organizations were broken, were sanctioned, were slowed down, were impacted in negative ways. So, everybody I know, we know this was for real. We saw it happening in real time. Now, there's a congressman, Pete Roscom, from Illinois, outside of Chicago, who I know. He's working on a putative punishment for Lois Lerner. Certainly we should, I think she should be in jail. She should be tried. When you're pleading the fifth like she did, you obviously have criminal activity that should have a prosecutor investigate to try and bring up charges.
you're not allowed to give them the charges. You can take the fifth, the amendment, which means not incriminate myself, which is basically not highlight the illegal things I did, so that then you give them the charges that they could indict you on. So, but the counsel, the prosecutors, can go after it, and they should. I don't think there's a statute of limitations for this larger crime, or if not, it should not be through yet. But Congressman Roscom, wants to claw back her pension, which dovetails with something I'm working on with Open the Books, the 501c3 nonprofit that I work with and co-run with the founder, Adam Andrzejewski, Polish-American who ran for governor in Illinois. We put all government spending online, and we forensic audit the public sector and do oversight work. And we have a bill on federal pension transparency that we're trying to get pushed through, that I'm in D.C. quite a lot in the last few months lobbying for, talking to House reps to support, and then senators eventually.
And speaking about transparency, Lois Lerner is right now suing for sealing the whole act, the whole conversation.
Exactly.
Can you give us some more details about Lois Lerner? Because I'm afraid that maybe there is like 1% of my listeners who may not be aware of this.
So 1/10 of
persona.
the 10?
Yeah.
So 1/10 of the 10 listeners?
No, because Lois Lerner is not a name that pops up often in TVN or TVP as well, as a matter of fact.
Well, TVN's not really news, per se. Lois Lerner ran for the IRS, one of the major divisions, tax-exempt organizations. That's all the nonprofits, NGOs. And she was straight caught plotting with the White House. How can we slow down these organizations that are helping the right, helping their ideas?
But they were afraid, because that was the moment of midterm elections, 2010.
2010, yep. That they got their asses kicked.
Exactly. And Obama just won his first term 2 years ago.
Yep.
It was just after the midterm election. It was after the midterm election. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they were afraid about the second term right now.
So yeah, they were afraid because they got it drubbed in 2010 so badly that the Republicans won the House and the Senate and were able to block a lot of Obama's agenda. That's why he started doing extra constitutional executive orders. And
they're not cooperating with him because they're racist.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And they plotted to hurt the organizations on the right that were doing things like voter education, voter drives, getting people to be conservative Republicans, to vote Republican, to be more, to push conservative ideology. So they started using her rubber stamp power. The IRS, tax-exempt organizations, don't pay taxes and receive gifts from individuals who then get a tax write-off. So there's this huge benefit. So they were rescinding the tax exemptions from organizations. They were blocking new organizations from getting them, and it was all based on politics. Leftist organizations had no problem. They were doing the same thing. They were business as usual, more help from the government than ever before, so it's that kind of dynamic. So very, very illegal to use the IRS as a political weapon. There should be a lot of prison sentences from it, but sadly we have not.
So everyone
seen that
who had this patriotic hashtag 912 groups, all of those guys who had this patriotic, right-wing, whatever, don't tread on me, 912
exactly.
movement, whatever, they were supposed to wait and see. Okay.
They found emails between her and her staff. What are the words they should look for so they can figure out if it's a right-of-center group? Things like freedom. If it has freedom in the name, we should take a look at it. Which tells you their mentality and the left's mentality in general. Wow, how dare those freedom-oriented people, organize and promote more freedom.
And that was 2 or 3 days ago. There was we saw this ending, the first ending of this process that they were given. They actually won the case. That was this class act. Oh shit! I'm sorry, I don't know the details about it. But they actually won its first. This congregation of groups, because it was a lot of groups, they won, and they're officially right now getting money from government.
Well, there's been a few cases about these nonprofits under
Getting
Trump.
money back.
Yeah. Certainly the groups that were sanctioned by the IRS are now free to do what they wanted to do, which is good. You've also had some religious litmus test, things like Obamacare and plans. Obamacare forcing religious groups to pay for abortifacient and birth control, which is against their religious dogma.
So those groups have now won since Trump has been elected, which is good as well. So we're bringing back some constitutional freedoms, which were, attempted to be abrogated by the left, as they always are.
Right, and our final part is an area of human activity that is also dominated by the left, movie making.
Good call.
Not everybody knows that basically a new movie is coming.
Well,
Or
not
maybe
anytime soon,
Not
but
anytime soon. But
Well-
maybe pretty soon we're going to watch Zły
Yeah.
on big screen.
that's what I'm working on.
What can you tell us? Because I know that there's a lot
a really
of
good
things
book.
that you can.
It's a really good book.
We all know
I
it.
encourage everyone to read it. Somebody actually attacked me on Twitter again last night and said that I'm just a loser coasting on, a famous surname. And my response to that was, that's a seriously good idea. People, buy books. That would be awesome. Yeah, we're working on my father's novel, making a feature film, and it's poetically fitting we're here in Kameralna. But really moving ahead. Should have a year of Tyrmand, the way they've had year of Gombrowicz, year of Herbert, year of Proust. In 2020, my father's 100th birthday, so the target date for releasing the movie is Christmas 2019, week before 2020 starts. Good time to release a movie. Should we be able to formally get this year of Tyrmand? This will be great because this will allow the school groups to go and see the movie if we don't make it too violent. So. And read my father's work. And there'll be also another movie made, I believe. Another studio is working on Philip, which is another one of my father's famous novels, which is great. So, 2020, my father's 100th birthday, should really be a year of Tyrmand in every way, with movies out, with books, with all sorts of promotion, maybe a Zły video game to go along with that movie. That's also being discussed and worked on. A lot of work to do. Have put together a great team of co-producers, director, screenwriter, first AD who really is top, knows the technical side because there's going to be a CGI component. So I'm really excited. It's a great script and treatment, really strong from the book. I think a lot of people knew that there was a process going on. In the past with this movie, it was supposed to be directed by a guy named Zvery Żuławski. In fact, I think we talked about this in our last podcast a year or so ago. But Zvery Żuławski was everything my father hated in art and culture and philosophy. French academic, postmodernist, existentialist. This is everything my father could not stomach from the academic and philosophical and cultural left. So we found a team that gets my father's vision, gets the underlying work, and we're working together to bring something great. Big budget. If it's done well, if it's executed well, which I fully intend and expect it to be, it can be a great vehicle for international sharing of interesting Polish history, Polish art, Polish culture. I was not that impressed with Ida. Now, the underlying subject was something the Academy in LA really likes. Anything related to this Holocaust, post-Holocaust sort of Jewish dynamic is very, very appealing to them because most of them are Jews. So yeah, it makes sense. But on its own merits, I thought that it wasn't that great. But I do hope that we can make Zły at such a high level that it can be exported all over the world and also be in contention for sort of international recognition. It'd be great for Poland. It'd be great for our ideals. It'd be great to share this very understood and known about history, which is Warsaw in the 50s. Here you've got this, great world capital reduced to rubble, and 10 years later plus, people are still, roaming around the city, and it's in ruins because the communists were not so well organized to rebuild. They didn't understand free market incentivization.
That sounds
dynamics.
like a lot of CGI.
Somebody asked me the other day, how are you going to film Warsaw in the 1950s? Go to Łódź. Go to Łódź. There's a lot you can do in Łódź. Stuff you can do in Praga too.
Craftsmaking.
What?
It's not going to be. Oh, can you share us some more highlights about this movie? It's going to be black and white or something like that. Because when you read the book, it is black and white.
Yeah. It's not going to be Technicolor to make it look like it's 21st century Hollywood. Certainly the techniques on filming we're discussing, but we have some really good ideas on how to make color, make the city stand out as well as be muted and give you the feel of the drab grayness. Because the main character of Zły is Warsaw. Everyone else is just a foil or a tool to expose how Warsaw was during this time.
Are you going to shoot in this place we are right now, in here, in Kameralna? Ever thought about it?
I doubt it. It's been remade. This place is rather modern as opposed to what it looked like.
No, of course, but that would be a nice, I don't know, nice trivia to add on IMDb later.
It will be very well done, take my word for it. I'm very excited about it. Well, I think we're going to have good support from a lot of different stakeholders. Good private investment.
Any
good,
names, any stars already?
No,
subscribed to that project?
we've kicked around a lot of names in the past. We have a lot of ideas, but we haven't done a formal casting again since we re-engaged the project, so I'm not going to jump the shark on that one.
You know, yesterday I went to the cinema to watch a Polish movie, and it was like the first Polish movie in like 20 years I saw on a big screen.
Which one?
Actually, Najlepszy. I don't know if you know it.
I heard of
It
it.
sounds like a beginning of a trilogy, you know, the best, then
Not so good.
zły, not too good, and bad.
No.
No, that's.
How was it?
It was great. I think that was the best Polish movie I've ever seen.
Who's director?
I don't remember. The guy who made Bogowie about
wait,
Liga.
Oh, okay, yeah.
fellow.
Malkowski. I talked to him.
Yeah.
I'd heard that it was mixed. You thought it was good.
I think it's actually. I was shocked. I was actually.
Good to know.
I was stunned, flabbergasted. I don't know how to say it. And mostly because I don't like Polish movies. Basically, whenever I'm watching a Polish movie, I feel that sense of, you know, nothing can be done. Let's just go and kill ourselves. Kind of melancholy.
There have been some great Polish movies. Certainly in the last 10, 15 years, I don't think that much. Bogowie was one of the better ones.
So you see.
There's a few. And most of them have been just kind of low scale, low budget. A problem with Polish filmmaking, in my view, and I've been kind of in the muck in this with peace in the past, is there's a very big cronyist, anti-competitive dynamic.
Of course.
You know, when Agnieszka Ororowicz is this head of peace who basically gives her friends money for movies, not on merit. You know, it's one thing to give your friends money for movies.
was also somehow involved in that Najlepszy.
She is. She runs the movie studio for Polsat, which funded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
But
even
I hate
with
to tell you-
Agnieszka Ororowicz, they made a good movie
Well,
somehow.
you're in the minority. I haven't seen the movie, so I can't judge. But you're in the minority on this because it's only sold like 90,000 tickets, and their break even is many, many multiples of that. So it's not done so well yet.
I think they can also thank to previous Polish producers for producing crap, basically.
A lot of crap.
And once you know it, you're not.
You can
gonna
thank Odorowicz
lose.
for that. My favorite
Maybe
is
as well, yeah.
Hiszpanka.
Who?
Hiszpanka.
Hiszpanka.
Yeah. As a Spaniard, you should have seen that one.
I haven't seen that. I'm
Hiszpanka.
just like-
Lucas Berhert, I think got like the full budget was 20-something million, and Peace put in a lot, and they like no one saw it. It was total crap. So that's what happens when you just pay your friends not on merit. I mean, look, I know people who are going to make funding decisions on Zły, and I would not ever urge them to fund a movie I'm involved with as an investor or with a grant based on, you know, politics or personal relationships. There should be accountability for it. The movie, at least the perception that the movie's going to be really good should be the driving factor, that it's going to be a successful vehicle to promote Poland. That should be the driving factor. And if that's not the case, if that fails to materialize, then there should be accountability.
No, but you know, nobody gives a shit about Hiszpanka or any other crap production. But basically, Zły is like a cult novel for at least 1 million people.
I hope.
So you can count on 100,000 tickets the first weekend, just like that. So that's going to be an engine.
Better be a lot. Better be a lot. That's all I gotta say. 'Cause
It's not going to be Botox or any. What? Is that your third mobile or what's that?
Wi-Fi.
Garage door opener?
Wi-Fi. Don't judge me, Agencki.
Yes, this is radio and you don't see it,
Yeah.
folks. But basically, Matthew is like a mobile unit of MediaMarkt. He's like, what's that?
Extra battery.
Extra battery, of course. Yeah, exactly. I thought I'm crazy because I got 2 microphones with me, and this guy's like Inspector Gadget, R2D2. He just pulls things out of I don't know where.
Yeah.
I'm not
Out
going
of
to ask
what?
about it out of thin air.
Out of
I'm not going to ask more because
Out of toy Jupiter?
that's going to sound very Weinsteinish. And you know what? I've heard that that Russian feminists are defending Weinstein. Maybe that's like going back to the middle of our conversation, but that's going to be the real end. And once I've read their arguments, I must say that I also need to defend Weinstein. Weinstein.
The
Because
typical.
basically, he was offering something for something. So it's not actually rape, right? He was never accused
No,
of
but there.
rape.
Okay, there are right now around 100 allegations of impropriety, and many of them are straight rape.
Okay,
He
so let's
straight
wait for that.
raped these women,
Okay.
like violently took advantage
When you
of them.
when you talk about this Gwyneth Paltrow or Jennifer Lawrence, whatever, they were just like trading.
They were,
trading.
but there were many. Annabelle Sciorra, the one that went undercover and taped him, which the New York Police Department is going to be bringing charges against him. He's going to be going to jail.
Okay.
He's going to have many criminal cases, and he'll be found guilty of most of them.
He'll have time to write memoirs, which is going to be
Nobody's
like
gonna wanna read it.
50 Shades of Weinstein.
Yeah, nobody's going to want to read it because the guy's a total scumbag. Just a
He looks like one.
He is. He's like a
And
total.
tell me this, for like 17 at least years, the whole century right now,
Yeah.
since the beginning of the century, we've heard jokes about it.
I know.
Seth MacFarlane was joking about it on Oscar
on the
Gala.
Oscars. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was like, nobody knew it.
Everyone knew it.
Everyone knew it.
But he was making them. He was making them money. He was a big Clinton political
Exactly.
donor.
Exactly.
He was protected. He was protected by the media class who claimed to be feminist progressives. It's incredible, isn't it?
Exactly.
The lying, the cheating, the fraud. These people are moralless, soulless, spineless scum. So let's expose the shit out of them.
Yeah, we keep doing it.
I'm gonna.
Okay, thanks for being here. It's been a pleasure and great fun. It's 45 minutes.
Time flies when you're having fun with an agent.
Exactly. So thanks again.
My pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you here on our show.
Thank you.